Hello and welcome to the Unwanted Opinion podcast, the show which me and my friend give our unwanted opinion on all things film. My name is Lewis and I'm joined today with Kyle.
Hello again.
Yes, hello again on the same day. I've learned my lesson from last time, is sort of not trying to lead on as if there's going to be someone else, because
No.
Gonzalo has left us. Um, right, as promised on the last episode, because we literally just finished the last episode, so it's quite easy to keep your promises here. We are going to be ranking the X-Men films. We have a whole tier list here. If you're watching us on YouTube, if you're not, we'll talk you through it on Spotify. Yes, we have all the X-Men films up until now because, to celebrate the release of Deadpool and Wolverine, which releases, if this comes out on Sunday, I guess in about 4 or 5 days' time. So,
If not,
let's
blame me.
yeah,
No,
I'll
I'm sorry.
blame Kyle on that one. So that is, I think, all we're doing today, I believe.
Yep.
Um, right, Kyle, let's
Let's
get
get to
started.
it.
This entire so when Kyle was setting up the tier list here, uh, I was trying to
We went
say
for a wee bit of
what
a faff
order
with it.
we should do this in, and this is much harder than I thought it'd be. I was like, oh, why don't we do them in release order? And then it just gets convoluted with Deadpool films and timeline problems. And but to be fair, Fox never cared about the continuity issues really
Mm-hmm.
after X-Men. Well, actually, you know what? Actually, I think when it got to First Class, I think that's when it all kind of went kind of it went
Let's see.
tits up on that one because they paralyzed Professor X like 20 years before he was supposed to be paralyzed
I
in
know.
X-Men first and X-Men Origins of Wolverine. But regardless, this was much harder to put in order than we thought. But anyway, we have order. We're going through the original trilogy, then the sort of reboot saga, then the Wolverine films, then Deadpool, and finally the greatest one of all, New Mutants, a film I've actually never seen. But Kyle thankfully has,
But
so he
I,
can tell
I
us what to
have,
put that
yeah.
on the list. But yeah, the tier list goes from S tier all the way down to F. And we've put in here brackets, numbers, sort of kind of the score we'd give these films. They'd sort of be in that
Yeah.
range of 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5, 6, 7 to 8, and S tier being 9
That
to
was
10.
also a process
Right.
because we were like we
That was
can't.
also a
Like,
process.
it's
So I
hard
was like,
because it's
oh,
hard to like categorize like a five and a
Mhm.
six because I think there's a big difference between a five and a six, and but seven and eight can be it's oh
I guess. Yeah.
so it's a
There's
miracle
only
this is
so many
working.
numbers, Kyle. There's only so many numbers.
I
This
know.
is a miracle. We're
But shall
very
we get into
pernickety when
this?
it comes to these things. Yeah, let's do it. Right. So X-Men 1, the original Bryan Singer film. God, this is rewatching this was kind of interesting because I was going to rewatch a bunch of these kind of in anticipation for the show, and I was like, I'm just going to watch the ones I know I like, but then I kind of just kept going and just watching the rest. And X-Men 1 was kind of one I didn't really know where to like. Originally, I was like, what? This is the biggest mystery. The one I kind of didn't know. Like it was so far long ago I watched it for like the first time.
Yeah.
But X-Men 1, surprisingly to me, I think kind of holds up.
Yeah.
I actually thought it was better than I thought it was going to be. Um, Now look, people to this day, I get it. They complain about, I guess, the seriousness of it and that whole line everyone seems to fixate on about the joke about wearing the yellow spandex. But I think for the time, and I think because people forget where the comic book film industry was at that point, it was
Yeah.
in the dirt. It was not a
Mm-hmm.
profitable,
Mm-hmm.
seen as a profitable place to go. Batman and Robin, what that did to the industry was
Destroyed
huge.
it.
People forget, like absolutely destroyed it, the credibility of the genre, really. And yeah, set it back years, kind of. So X Men and Blade, really as well. You can have to give
Yeah,
Blade a lot of
because
credit to. Um,
you have to remember that
those two
Spider Man
films
was also being filmed at this time, so they weren't
at
even
the
that
time,
hasn't even
yeah.
been out. So these two
No,
films, I
no,
think,
this
really
is
kicked it back into gear.
yeah. And that's the thing. Like I understand why they took this kind of realistic, kind of real world approach to it. Give it that I know the black leather kind of make it, less kind of flashy and colourful. I get why they
Hmm.
did it. And for its time and rewatching it, I was surprisingly entertained. Now look, spectacle wise, I mean it's not great from the action
No,
front. I'll give it that.
no,
But it brings the whole ethical and moral problems that is with the X-Men. That
yep,
sort of the entire like the debate about mutant freedom and what we should and shouldn't do to these people.
hmm,
Like straight from the cartoons, really. Like it felt, I was like, yeah, this is a live action, as much as they could go back then, live action adaptation of what X-Men could be, and having that
yeah,
debate. And it was good. It was all right. I liked it. What about you,
It's
Kyle? What do you
no,
think?
it is. I mean, I've rewatched 90% of these
Mm,
films this year
yeah.
in preparation with
Mhm,
introducing my girlfriend to these movies, which she'd never
mhm,
seen. And
yeah.
yeah, the first X Men, I was like, you know what? Yeah, I remember this being a wee bit more serious when I
Mm,
was a kid. I was
yeah.
like, I
Mhm,
probably avoided watching it more because I was like,
mhm.
in my child mind, I was like, "There's no action. What's the point? What's the point in watching this?" You
There
know,
is very little
I
action in
I
this
probably
film,
as a
yeah.
child went to X3
Mhm.
more because I was like, "It's got the
Oh,
action,"
really?
you
Oh
know.
god, well,
Well,
we'll
I
get to
know, and you turn
that.
around in your old age and
Yeah,
you're a bit like, right, okay.
yeah.
No,
Mhm,
I thought Rogue's character was handled really well, and it kind of gave a good kind of
mhm.
she was that character that was maybe our eyes and ears of the mutant universe, where
Mm.
she was
Yeah,
this
getting into
fearful
your heart and
person,
Logan, yeah.
and we see
Yeah.
all this new stuff through her eyes. And it really
Mhm.
is. It's her and Wolverine's film, more or less,
Yeah, it's their
you
story,
know.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed kind of entering into this. I enjoyed the Magneto. I also
Mhm.
like this because it's the first time we see Magneto's origin, and I think that's cool and it's
Yeah,
unique. It's
yeah.
when you see it 18
Opening with
times, like
that
with Batman. It's like,
Yeah,
you know,
opening with that is great.
a
That is a
powerful shot.
real and then immediately jumping to the present day and then you immediately understand the position he's
Mm.
in. I think it's a really great setup for your
A-
villain.
And
And
you know what, I have to
that's the
say,
great thing. I think
mm,
uh-huh.
I was going to say the
Sorry, I was
casting of
oh, sorry.
everybody in this, yeah,
Yeah, it's
just
great. The f
brilliant.
the casting is spot on, I think, for everyone, and, like, that seeing Professor X and Magneto especially really love, like I was saying, Ian McKellen, and, they kinda
For
keep him in the
sure.
shadows at the start, and
Yeah,
then, you have that whole little conversation between him and Charles, and you immediately understand their opposing views, and I'm like, that's great setup for those 2 characters, and I think for the most part with these films, bar when we get to another one, Magneto's pretty well handled, I think, throughout the
yeah.
majority of these films. I really like, and he's one of my favorite comic book characters. I think he's so fascinating. Yeah, I think it's solid. Look, yeah, like we're saying, spectacle wise, it's not really great. Visual effects wise, I think it actually holds up pretty decent. Wolverine's
It
claws look
does.
pretty good
It does hold
uh,
up.
for this film.
Mystique's
Mhm.
transformations I thought was always really good. I mean,
Mystique
her
looks great.
outfit
Yeah.
is just so
Mhm.
good. Especially when we can see down the line, when certain
Yeah.
actors get higher stardom, they
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
be in that
Yeah.
trailer so long. Just
Yeah.
saying.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, no, it's just funny seeing that meme actually. Yeah, no, like I said, the kind of final act of the Statue of Liberty, you're like, oh, is this it? You know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah. I
I
get
I
that.
enjoyed it. It was a great introduction into the X-Men universe. I do think it's a really good starting point for anybody who doesn't know anything about these characters. It
Yeah.
does a really good job, and it
Yeah.
keeps it
Yeah.
self-contained because the X-Men universe can get so messy and
Yeah, it can
complicated
get very
so
convoluted, yeah.
easily. Like if you jump into the cartoon, you're gonna have a struggle because it's a lot.
Yeah, because it just goes, yeah. Yeah,
It
yeah,
goes.
yeah.
But where would we put this, Lewis? Let's go for that. Where are we gonna put this?
I'm I'm feeling sorry, the C tier. No, sorry, the B tier, yeah.
The
I'm
B
going
tier.
6
We're
out of
gonna
10.
get with.
I'm
Yeah,
6 out of
I'm
10 for
I'm
X-Men
with you
number
there.
1.
I
Mhm,
mean I could
yeah,
easily I could push it to 7, but I could understand the
mm, yeah.
especially
I mean, it does
comparison
kinda suffer
wise.
from yeah. I think also it does kinda I know it's introducing people to this world, but a lot of it's done through, like, just Charles's narration sort of thing, and that
Yeah,
is like,
yeah,
yeah, it kinda bogs it down. But yeah, great introduction to everyone. Everyone's really well cast, like you're saying.
yeah.
It does have that awful line about what happens to a
What
toad when
happens
struck
with
by
a toad
lightning.
when it hits a lightning? Same thing
Does
that
anyone
happens with
get that?
anything
Does
else.
anyone understand what that
No,
means? I don't
I
know.
believe there was a cut scene that was gonna
Oh,
be
was there?
like a callback. That was gonna be a callback to a cut scene, and they just cut it, and it
Right,
just makes
okay.
no sense. That
Right.
I believe I
Right.
remember reading some trivia on that at some point or hearing some
Mhm.
trivia. But yeah,
Yeah.
so that's the first X Men that kind of introduced us to everything.
Yeah, right. So X2, right. This is for me great sequel,
You
levels
love
up
this film,
everything. I rewatched it again. I was like, it's just so entertaining. I just really loved it from just a directorial standpoint as well. Like the openings of these films are actually all really good. I think even
yeah,
well, not all of them. I just mean the original trilogy. I think the openings are very
yeah.
strong. Um, I like the Nightcrawler sequence, it's fantastic. I think that
It's
is still just
beautiful.
handled so well. I love the
The the
visual
night
effects
the
around
Nightcrawler character
Nightcrawler.
is just done
Mhm.
so well, played by is it Alan?
It's Alan Cumming, yeah,
It is Alan
Scottish
Cumming, yeah.
actor, yeah,
He's
yeah.
just fantastic in
And
that role and really kind of delves into the religious views of Nightcrawler, and I thought that was a really kind of beautiful
mhm,
aspect. Brian
mhm.
Cox in this as well as Stryker,
Yeah, great
great
villain. Loved
villain.
him as,
I love
Striker, yeah.
I love the kind of I like the kind of focus, not focus on, but we kind of have a wee small group of the kids. You know, you've got Bobby
Mhm.
Iceman takes a big kind of a step up in this kind of film,
Yeah.
along
Yeah, and
with
same with
Pyro,
Pyro as well.
and that
Uh-huh,
kind of conflict
and
because
mhm,
I like it. I know everybody kind of finds Pyro character a bit, but I like seeing the kind
mhm,
of
mhm.
the the kind of split of mutants in the younger
Yeah,
characters, like the
yeah.
kind of
No,
discovering it.
I think they do a decent job with Pyro in this one. It's with X-Men 3, it completely falls apart.
Yes,
But
no,
I think
true.
in this one, Pyro's eventual turn to Magneto's side, I'm like, yeah, yeah,
Mhm,
that adds up. I think that's well handled. Um, this as well is because I think also what they do well in the first one, which we didn't talk about, is that kind of although it's Wolverine's kind of lead guy, um, they kind of do it like that. Everyone uses their powers to a good degree. Everyone has like
mhm,
something to do when it comes to the final set piece. Once again, Wolverine actually kind of he's on his kind of his own mission throughout this entire thing,
yeah.
trying to find out who Stryker is, what Alkali Lake is, trying to discover his past, and then sort of by the end of it, going, I don't need
And
this, you know, I
is
need
it
to go forward. Uh huh.
Jason who's there as the kind of the Professor X
Yeah,
double? Is it Jason? Yeah,
yeah,
it's so Stryker's
Stryker's
son.
son. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That was
No,
I mean
I
the whole school scene, the whole like break in,
yeah.
brilliant.
Mhm.
Brilliant
Yeah,
scene.
that I love that sequence. I love that sequence. We actually studied that in English in like first or second year. I
Really?
remember
That
because
scene?
yeah, our English teacher was a big X-Men fan, and we studied that scene. Because it's like just like it's a classic like how do we create tension from just
Yeah.
like the beginning it's like all quiet and then you have that sort of exchange, that casual exchange with Bobby and Wolverine, and then it slowly wraps up the tension, the whole use of lighting and whatever. It was great. I still remember that to this day. It was really good. Maybe
It's
that's why I've
just
got a really soft spot for X2. But yeah, everyone once again, everyone's powers comes into use. Everyone has something to do, which I like. When you've got an ensemble, it's not just a couple of people
yeah.
doing all the work. Um, what I will say, which detracts from this, I mean, well, actually, another positive. I like having the villains from the last film team up with the good guys,
That's
and
always a good
then
fun. That's always good fun.
Magneto has his own insidious plan thrown in at the last minute.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's great. I love that stuff. What I will say, which annoyed me, and this is the kind of one of the biggest flaws of the entire trilogy, is Scott. I I don't know
Yeah.
why they felt the need to get rid of Scott for the majority of this film. Like, I guess Hugh Jackman, I guess, was kind of like a bigger star, and maybe they just wanted him to kind of
I
be
feel there was
the
some
focus.
behind the
But
scenes stuff as well though. If I
mm,
remember right, right,
mhm.
I'm gonna check what's his face called. His name's gone from my set. James Marsden. I feel that he was also
Yeah,
filming stuff around the same time that was going to
was
be.
he?
I think it was a case of there was something that he was filming that was going to be the big thing, and then it ended up not because he. I knew he left. He left X Men 3 early because he was filming Returns, Superman Returns.
Oh yeah, I forgot he was in Superman Returns because he was obviously a friend of Bryan Singer's at the time.
Yeah, so he was doing that, and then
Mhm,
I mean, I don't
mhm.
know. I mean, he's happy now. He's in the Sonic films. But yeah, it's especially now after X Men '97, where Cyclops has got such a
Yeah,
resurgence as being the popular
yeah,
character. We were having a huge
yeah,
discussion about this earlier in the week
mhm,
about how
mhm.
X Men's going to bring into the MCU, and I do think
Yeah,
that Cyclops is going to be that main character
Cyclops
now
will
because of his
absolutely.
love.
I think yeah, and I think obviously it's just easier to not have like a new Wolverine as well. You don't
Yes,
need that
no,
figure.
yes.
So
Hmm.
I think other X-Men will absolutely take the spotlight, and Scott will hopefully be that one. But I think just having him. he's gone for like an hour. Like
Mm.
genuinely, he's there with Professor X in the plastic cell, going to visit Magneto, and then he just gets knocked out, and then he shows up with that, the drops Stryker puts in the back of people's necks to have them controlled, and then he just fucks up the entire dam,
Yeah.
and then I'm just like,
Um,
why did they have to do
we've
that to Scott?
got
I
we've
wish he was
got
just part of the team.
female
Mhm.
Wolverine as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. They kind of is she not meant to be like a old like Lady Deathstrike, but with
I
kind of
think
just
she's
a
meant to
different
be kind of
adaptation?
Lady Deathstrike. Yeah, because this is the
Mhm,
second time that the final fight with
mhm.
Wolverine's against Wolverine, kind of. Because in that first
Yes,
film, he's
yes.
beating Mystique and everything, which is the
Yeah, yeah.
weird humor.
This is a
But
better
yeah, no.
fight. This is a better
Overall,
fight.
I would say
Mhm,
I enjoy this film more.
mhm.
They're they're still, dare I say it, too dark for X Men, because I do think X Men is meant to be a lot more of a colorful film. Not
No,
saying
yeah,
not
yeah.
saying the storylines are too dark. Because I mean,
No,
X Men
no, no,
goes
no.
dark,
They get
but
dark. Yeah.
they get dark. But I still like. I'm just like visually. I'm just like, this isn't
I
the
get
right
it.
campness of the
Mhm,
X Men.
mhm. Uh-huh.
That
Yeah,
not that I feel that any of these films really hit that mark. I think some get close to
yeah.
it.
Mhm.
But yeah,
I will
where would
say
we?
I
Or do you want to add
I'm
last comment?
I'm a go A tier. I'm A tier with
I
I think
agree
it
with you
holds up
there.
really well. It's enjoyable. It's engaging. Once again, carrying on the same debates as the first film, and obviously it can be extrapolated to any sort of
Yeah,
minority group, and it feels like a convincing world. It feels like a real world. And you don't notice like the way these films like look, like the way they're lit and shot, just like they look like a real world. Like it doesn't
they
look like
look. Yeah,
trashy a bunch of the comic book films now. It looks like
no.
it was lit well.
I mean,
It's
well,
handled well. I like the look of it.
speaking of trash, shall we move on?
Right, X-Men 3: The Last Stand. I don't even know where to begin with this film, Kyle.
Can I give it a positive? Can I give it a positive?
Please.
Kelsey Grammer
Mhm.
as Beast. I
Yeah,
give that.
he's good.
That's
I like
brilliant.
his
I love
makeup.
him. I
It's good as
love him in
well.
that role.
Um, yeah, I don't right one this right. I was shocked when I went on Disney Plus to watch this. I was like, this film's under 2 hours. There is like five films in here.
I
Oh
know.
my
It's
god.
insane.
Look, I don't under right. It's completely overwritten. There's far too much going on. I do not know whose idea it was to do this Cure storyline, but it's utter
Mm.
garbage, or at least the way it's handled in this.
Cause Angel doesn't
Because
even do anything. He swoops in the
Angel
last
is
second and then he flies
to
away.
save his dad, and that's it. The Angel stuff as well. What was the point? Like, and also, I'll say this as well. It's also it's so weird. I know Bryan Singer left to do Superman Returns. I get that, and they put in an awful replacement in Brett Ratner. And I also don't understand why they felt the need to put that Cure storyline in at all when the end of your last film set up the villain for this film.
When
Like, what's the actual point? And also, from that standpoint, I'm sorry, from that standpoint, you have it set up so you don't need to do another storyline. You can just do Dark Phoenix, and you don't need to bring in the whole cosmic element. We get it. This is a real world adaptation of the X-Men. I get that. So you don't need to do that. You resurrect her as a different person, right? She died and the Phoenix is born. Okay, great.
yeah,
With that, this is once again. Now you may be right, actually, in that was it James
James
Marsden
Marsden. Mm.
is off to do Superman Returns, right? But I don't know how much I believe that in this. Maybe there must have been scheduling conflicts because they kill Scott Summers has like 10 minutes of screen times in this, and
Oh
then he just gets killed off. But this film has like just they want to kill everyone in it, like for some
yeah.
reason to make the stakes really high. But it's just like no, I hate that. This was the opportunity to really bring Scott to the forefront and really have him be,
So
in this horrible
well,
emotional conflict and grief over the death of Jean Grey, and then having Jean Grey come
yeah.
back
Um,
with also the love Wolverine has for her, and then maybe those two actually having to come together to realize this isn't the woman they fell in love with, and that they
yeah.
have to take her down.
So out of
I
trivia
honestly don't
wise,
understand it.
sorry, I'm just gonna say
Yeah,
that
please,
it
please
does
enlighten me.
say that Cyclops as well as Mystique's roles were reduced
Mhm.
when the movie was rushed into production because the two
Right.
cast members had prior scheduling conflicts. So this could be all to the fact that they rushed this film into production as well.
Yeah,
Because
and they
Mystique
could have
is
just
also
waited.
she just gets kind of
Yeah, I hate
picked
the way
out.
Mystique is handled in this
Mm,
because Mystique is so cool. Like Mystique is great. Like her design is fantastic. She's
They
just a
could have,
great,
yeah.
a great like sort of right hand man to or right hand woman
Mhm.
to Magneto. She just gets. I just love her. I think she's great. A really like great adversary for everyone.
It's funny
And
that
then, uh
within a year you
mhm,
had two ends to superhero trilogies that suffered from
yeah,
over storytelling, with Spider-Man 3
yeah,
coming out
yeah.
a year
Spider-Man
later.
3 and this,
Isn't
yeah,
that
very similar issues. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's so frustrating, and like the treatment of Mystique is shit.
Yeah,
Like,
no, it's horrific.
as soon as she's
It's
cured, Nate
horrific.
was like, I mean, Nate was like, "Ah, fuck you then," and then leaves, and then she just hands in all the information to the government. Like,
Yeah,
also kind of off screen. I get you say it was rushed into production. They must have had not a lot of time. Just like kind of off screen, like on a
it is.
CCTV footage,
It's
fucking
so
Zack
funny.
Snyder style.
It's so
Like, oh,
funny.
just giving them the information. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, it's just completely bloated. Didn't know how to handle characters. For some reason, killing everyone off. I would say the only one maybe that really could have, had an effect is killing off Charles midway through the film. But you've kind of neutered that with just killing off Scott, and like it
Yeah.
feels. And then also with Jean Grey, just treating her like a fucking henchman for
Oh, the
Magneto, who's just
Phoenix
standing
saga
there
that's
with
just
nothing
useless.
to do until
Mhm.
she just goes, "Yeah, okay, I'm going to destroy everything." Um, and
And
also, sorry, also on my rant,
yeah,
the Brotherhood of Mutants. See the mutants Magneto recruits for his like gang. They fucking suck. They're so uncool. They're not
they're
intimidating. They're
useless.
just like the loser. One guy's a fucking pufferfish. Like it's just shit. And
Yeah,
oh my
yeah, he
god,
is.
why did you even put Juggernaut in this with all these other villains going on? Just horrible, horrible. It made
It's
me
not a
angry
good
watching it.
film.
It's not.
It really isn't.
Mhm.
The best part of it is the ending. And
Because it
even at that
ends.
point, even at that point, right, when you
Yeah.
get Magneto depowered, you're like, this is a really cool point because now he's one of the people that
Mhm,
he hates. But no,
mhm.
nothing lasts in this film
No,
because
no.
literally
I know, yeah, Charles also brought back.
two huge
Yeah.
things that happen in this film is Charles dies and Magneto loses his powers.
Uh-huh.
Both at the ending,
Yeah.
they retcon those emotions.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Like,
It's like they
what was the
asked the
fucking point?
fucking
Yeah.
J.J. Abrams to come in and shoot the last two scenes, and he went, "Oh, I'm going to retcon what these things happened."
Yeah.
But you're right.
Also, I was saying this.
Let's not spend too long because I know we can rant
But
about this film for
one more
ages.
thing about it is that even Ian McKellen, who was great at Magneto in the last two films, is trash in this film.
Yeah,
His line delivery in some of these lines is fucking horrible. When he
I
goes,
feel
"Oh, what have I done?" I'm like, oh my god, he really didn't give a shit. He knew how bad this project was. Like, it's bad. It's bad. Right, Kel, where are you putting this?
I feel my thing is right.
Mhm.
There's a lot worse films for me personally,
I honestly like
and
I
I
get it.
struggle.
And honestly, see talking about this, I was like coming in, I was like, this is a 3 out of 10. But I don't know if I'd put this in F tier now because I actually talking about it really fucking hate what they did to the other two films with this thing. Um, I'm gonna stick with it now. I'm gonna put it in D tier, like a
Yeah,
really low
I'm
three
with
out
you
of
with D.
ten.
I think there's a couple more that I think
Uh-huh.
are going to be filling that
Yeah.
F tier um
Okay.
spot. So right, we'll
Mm-hmm.
move on. So after that, they decided to do. Let's go. Well, after that, they technically did another film, but because release
We'll get
schedules
to
are
that.
just so
We'll get to
annoying,
that. Yes.
they rebooted with the First Class movies. Now this is when we get
Yes.
James McAvoy and Michael
Mhm.
Fassbender
Yeah.
and Jennifer Lawrence as Charles,
Yeah.
Eric, and Mystique.
Mystique.
So
Yeah.
yes,
Changing it
the First
up.
Class
Hmm.
set in the '60s on the backdrop of the
Yes.
Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
do you think about
Yeah.
this one?
Pretty cool. I like this one. I once again opening very strong.
Yep.
Just well, obviously they kind of just use the footage from X-Men One, but then they extend that with the what happens, the tragedy with
Kevin
Magneto's
Bacon.
mother and Kevin Bacon's what's he called again? It's Sebastian Shaw character
Hmm.
who is like, oh, move the coin. We can see you can move a fence. This is nothing, and then
Hmm.
realizing it's anguish and anger and pain will slowly think that it gets him to utilize his powers. Great scene. Kevin Bacon, great villain. Who would have thought? I think he's a
He's brilliant
great
in this
villain.
film.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I mean this film obviously is a back off of the another Origins film that didn't do very successful,
Mm.
which we'll come on to.
Yeah.
They were going to do an origin film for everybody, but they kind of
Yeah.
I believe that there was always plans for the origins of Magneto and Charles films to
Yes.
be a
Yeah.
to be one. So they just kind of
Yeah.
expanded on this and went, right, we're just gonna
Mhm.
do a an X-Men film. And yeah, I mean, this
Yeah.
film is it's enjoyable, it's good fun. Kevin
Yeah.
Bacon's a really good villain. We
Mhm.
have fun, like you're saying, like how Magneto in the last film surrounds himself with really crappy villain, like
Mhm.
sidekicks.
Henchman, yeah.
You've got
Yeah.
Aziriel, who's a really cool, like,
Azazel,
teleporting
yeah.
demon, and then Emma Frost, who's just kind of a really kind of like
Mhm.
you don't know who her allegiance
Yeah.
is and everything with that.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's cool. And you kind of get the first kind of lot of mutants of the X-Men.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
know, you get your Banshees,
Mhm.
Darwin, who can
Yeah.
survive everything but doesn't,
Mhm.
which is the
Doesn't.
funny part, obviously, uh, of
Yeah.
that character. But great actor, and obviously he's come back to be in the DC film, so I'm excited because I
Mhm.
really do enjoy that actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love this. I think for me, the standout is just the performances by um,
James
James
McAvoy and
McAvoy and Mike
Fassbender.
Fassbender. I
Yeah.
think those two
Fassbender
are
especially
just
for me. Yeah.
brilliant in
Mhm.
this role, and it
Yeah.
it it really kind of kicks on the kind of cockiness that actually is Charles Xavier, like in his early
Mhm.
years, where he
Yeah.
assumes he's right at everything, and everybody will have his opinion and view.
Mhm. Mhm.
When like Magneto's like, that's not the case, buddy. Like, it's
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
can't do it, and that's what I
Mhm.
really like about it is that because Mystique kind of realizing to be happy in her own body, and Charles being like,
Mhm.
"What are you doing? You're naked. Put your clothes on." And she's like,
Mhm.
"No, this is me." And
Yeah. Yeah.
Charles is going like, "I
Yeah.
don't like this change." Like Charles is a petty
Yeah.
human, really. He is a petty little
Yeah.
boy,
Yeah.
and I love
Yeah.
that performance that James McAvoy
Mhm.
brings to him because this isn't early
Mhm.
Charles. It's not the wise Patrick Stewart.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
action wise, great fun.
Yeah, it's solid. It's pretty solid. Some of the visual effects are a bit shaky, I think.
I,
Like Banshee's training.
Banshee's
That's
training with
rough. But
the aerial thing.
yeah.
Nicholas
Yeah.
Hoult
Fun.
is Hank McCoy and Beast,
Yeah.
great as
Hank
well.
McCoy's good. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think this film really thrives with the relationship, the sort of blossoming relationship of Charles and Magneto. I think Magneto's entire like kind of first act is also really engaging when he's literally hunting Nazis across the
Yeah,
world. I kind of wanted more of that,
I know. That's
because I
good.
found that really enjoyable. The spy stuff, the sort of 60s aesthetic is cool, and I think the third act is really strong. Actually, I
Yeah,
like that the mutants are involved with the Cuban Missile Crisis and like on the verge of nuclear war. And the way he kills Sebastian, Magneto kills Sebastian,
really good.
awesome,
That whole
awesome,
final
love
sequence,
that,
the taking the
brilliant.
submarine out
Mm,
and on the beach,
hmm.
and Charles being
Yeah,
paralyzed, I was like, that's a
yeah,
really good. And I have to admit, like, as much as I feel this film was the kind of first starting
mhm.
of like cameos, like a big cameos in these kind of films, because
Oh yeah, because Wolverine
Hugh
shows up.
Jackman
Yeah,
makes a small appearance, and I have to admit, I still find
mhm.
that cameo just the best because it's just
It's one of the
the
best they've ever done.
abruptness of that.
I still remember it still in like 2011 seeing that and everyone being like, oh my god, and because it really is one of the first of its kind,
It really
really in this
is.
sort of modern day superhero cameo fest we're kind of getting these days. That was like, oh my god, yeah, Wolverine, that was so cool.
And then it's just
Yeah,
the
that was I
abruptness of
like
him
that a
going
lot.
"fuck off," and I'm
Mhm.
like, love it.
Yeah,
That's just on par,
yeah,
and I just, you know,
yeah.
uh,
I agree. I agree as well.
I thought it
Right,
was
so
good. But
where'd you
yeah,
go to? Where do
I
you want to put
I
this in the tier
mean,
list?
I put it as A. I
Mm.
think it's a solid 7. I think it's a
Yeah,
fun, good
yeah.
time. I would put it
A tier.
below X2. I say because
Yeah, I
I
think X2 is a
enjoy.
stronger film.
I
Uh-huh.
think
I
X2 is
agree.
a stronger film.
Mhm,
Um, but yeah, no, it's a solid flick. I
mhm,
would always, I would never not watch this X Men film. If I was ever to do a rewatch of the X Men
mhm,
trilogy, the X Men
mhm.
films, I always would watch First
Yeah,
Class. I think it's a great
mhm,
time. Kevin
yeah.
Bacon, like I said,
Right,
just a
so
delight.
yeah, we do have a Wolverine film technically in between this, but we'll get to them.
Yeah,
But yeah, the
because
next
we're
one after,
confused. It's confusing.
yeah, we're confused. The next X-Men film after that was, of course, X-Men: Days of Future Past. Still the highest grossing, I think, of all the Fox films. Maybe even Deadpool 2. I'll need to double check that. But yeah,
Well, we'll see until
huge film.
next week.
This was huge. This was the proper passing of the torch movie. This was
Yeah,
sort of, because the original cast don't actually aren't in this film that much, but it is that sort of, moving on to the next generation, which is also kind of the old generation because it's all in the past.
Yeah,
Whatever.
it's confusing.
X-Men film. So yeah, I do think the adaptation of this is like, because in the original ones you're dealing with Bishop and
Yeah.
all that stuff as well. And I kind of like the way they changed it up, with the whole Kitty Pryde using her power, well, her powers have somehow adapted to time travel. Whatever. I do like the idea of sending Wolverine back and having our Wolverine that we've known for so long have to handle the younger, kind of unknown versions of these
Of
two.
Charles and
Um,
Eric.
of Charles and Eric. Yeah, I mean, I think A Days of Future Past was, for a time, definitely one of my favorite X-Men films. I love I actually really love all the future stuff. The Sentinel
Mhm.
stuff. Sentinels are really, really great enemies, really good foes. I
Yeah.
think really quite
Especially that
daunting
futuristic design.
challenges.
I love the kind of sleekness and the kind
Yeah,
of
yeah. And the way
just
they adapt and stuff
yeah.
like that. I like the way, I just really enjoy Hugh Jackman's interaction uh Professor X. I kind of wish we got more time with Magneto, like young Magneto, with
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman, because they have like one exchange on the
They
plane
have one
about
exchange
how,
that's like, oh,
and then
only if they were
uh,
made of metal, and it's like,
and all that stuff. And
yeah,
he's like, "Oh, like we're both survivors and stuff like that." And I kind of wish we got more of those two interacting.
yeah.
But look, the Quicksilver introduction to him is great. His entire scene
That
in
sequence,
breaking,
everybody knows
um,
that one. It's brilliant.
yeah, breaking Magneto
I,
out
l-
of prisons,
the
great.
idea that I love the the bringing in the conspiracy theories of the JFK assassination, like who would curve a
Yeah.
bullet, um,
Hmm.
and then the kind of twist of like JFK was a mutant, and I'm just like, yeah, no,
Yeah, he
it's
was trying
fun,
to save them and all
it's
that.
fun times.
Yeah, yeah,
Peter
I
Dinklage's
I fun with that
Trask,
as well.
I enjoyed.
I don't know. For me, Trask, I think Peter. I don't know if it's just the script he was given. For me, he's just a little bit. He's just not very exciting to watch in this film. I think I wanted more. I just think he's just a bit
Hmm?
just a bit plain, a bit just like,
I
yeah, I'm
mean,
saying my
I
lines sort of thing.
okay, right, yeah, I can kind of see that. I mean, Mystique is
Mhm.
the kind of antagonist of this film, really.
Yeah, she's the one who's got the fate of the future hinges on
Hmm.
what she does.
Literally.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
literally.
and
But there's more. Look, I enjoy X-Men: Days of Future Past. I do. I kind of wish. Oh, what was it? It's not really with this film. I personally would have liked another. Um, the McAvoy Fassbender films. Another one of them before
before
this one.
this,
Yeah, because I don't know. I feel like I feel it because it's like one of those films, like we got like three and plus all those Wolverine films. We
yeah,
have so much time with the old cast. They had one film before this. And for me, I don't know, I just feel like this would have been a great trilogy capper. Do you get me? Like of like because it would be, the ending of kind of
you
all
could
the
have had
storylines
the
coming into
ending of the
this.
last film being that it would have been
Hmm.
around the JFK assassinations, and it
Yeah.
would have been
Yeah.
like,
Hmm.
I mean,
And
that's a
also, I
heavier
think it
topic.
also would have fucking stopped this ridiculous thing they go into having, oh, we need to set them all in different decades. Why? Don't do that, because then it just gets ridiculous.
It makes no sense when it's
It
like,
makes
oh,
no
it's been
sense.
20 years, and it's like the character's aged a day. You're like,
Yeah,
brilliant.
I hate that
That's
that stupid gimmick. It's just that
that's
sucked.
such a gimmick. 'Cause this
Um,
one's this. It was the 60s, 70s,
uh,
80s, 90s, and I'm like, what are
90s.
we doing
It's
here?
just
Um,
stupid. James
but
McAvoy has he like they haven't aged. He's just bald. It's like what? It's
I
just
know.
I hate it.
But
And
yeah,
it's yeah, it's
it
yeah,
was it's a good film. It's a good action flick. I do
mhm.
think it's quite. I
Great.
still
It's got
think it's still
solid action.
really enjoyable.
Mhm,
Every aspect of it.
mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
solid. I don't really have. I mean,
Yeah, and I also have you seen the Rogue cut of this film where
no,
they
I've never
have
seen the Rogue Cut.
obviously the Rogue cut. I mean, plot wise, it makes sense to bring in Rogue, and the reason they cut it is because like, oh, we just had a Prison Break sequence, we're doing another Prison Break sequence, so it would have felt a bit
So what
repetitive.
happens in the Rogue?
But the
What
way,
actually does Rogue do in
well,
the Rogue Cut?
it's because when Kitty Pryde gets, because when Wolverine starts freaking out in the past, and she starts to lose him, he slices her.
Yeah.
Um, what they need to heal her. So what they need to do is to get Rogue to transfer Wolverine's powers, or to transfer Kitty's powers to Rogue so she can carry on the procedure. And then obviously in this version they just kind of like have her. She's like, oh, she's gonna eventually like die or
Yeah.
whatever. But in that one, Magneto, so Professor X, Bobby, and Magneto go to the X mansion where it's now under Sentinel control, and she's in the cerebral room getting like Rogue's getting like surgery or getting some sort of
All right.
um
Okay.
procedure done. So then Bobby and Magneto have to go in and rescue her. Which I really like that combination of characters as well, because obviously Bobby was her former boyfriend and Magneto was the one who like almost killed her in the first film. So it's the both of them going in to sort of rescue her.
Is this
And
available on Disney Plus to watch the Road
you
Cut?
can I haven't checked, but the road cut scenes are just on YouTube, like all
All
like
right.
10 minutes of them. And they intercut it though with, this is why it confused me as to why they cut it, because they intercut that sequence with Magneto breaking in to the whose head this is it the CIA headquarters to get his helmet and stuff back. You know when he sees all the
Pentagon, or was it the CIA? I can't
yeah
remember.
yeah, it's like I think it's like the CIA base to get his helmet, and he sees like Angel's wings and
Mm,
Havoc's like
yeah.
busted like core thing, um, and it's intercut with that, and it works really well. And I'm like, this is only 7 minutes. I'm like, it just makes more narrative sense to have that scene in it. Um, I kind of get the reasoning, but for me, I like the inclusion of that scene. I think it's a really good sequence, and I like, and it also gives Ian McKellen something to do
Yeah.
besides like
Um,
that one scene. So I like that a lot.
where we putting it?
But for me, I'm feeling I'm feeling A tier this
Yeah.
one. For me, it's just the first class, and I really Wolverine's everything he's learned, having to go back and teach a young Professor X. All that, I think
Where
that stuff's great.
okay,
I'm
is
gonna
A
tier this one.
are we putting it between X2 and are we putting it above X2?
I think it's oh, that's tough. That's tough.
I mean, overall, it is, I would say, a lot more colorful. It feels more like an X-Men film than X2.
That yeah, true. It's more because it's more kind of dealing with like
Yeah.
time travel and weird
I'm
futuristic
I'm
events
gonna
and
put it
all that
above
stuff.
X2 personally. I think it
Okay.
does feel more like, if we're ranking them as X-Men films here, I
Uh-huh.
do think it is a
Uh-huh.
bit more of an X-Men film.
Mhm. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's some like set piece wise, like I don't think the finale's really that great. The
I know, but
future's action stuff's great, but the
yeah.
past stuff isn't really.
I mean, ironically, I do love
Yeah,
the lifting of that baseball stadium and putting it down as like a cornering
yeah,
off everybody.
yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Mhm. It's just I always feel like
And
Wolverine
I
trying
like
to
how they
go and
fix they kind of redo it where it's like, oh, we'll make sure he gets caught by Stryker at the end so he gets his metal claws for the next film or
mhm.
whatever, you know.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know.
Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, we'll leave
For
it
me,
there.
well, there. Okay, that's fine. Right.
Right.
Okay.
We're
X Men
moving on to some
Apocalypse. Jesus
harder
Christ.
ones.
Look, I actually don't have
Apocalypse.
much to say about X Men Apocalypse. I think it's there
I
is
don't
this weird
remember
argument
much in
about
it.
it. There is this weird argument about it that it's like purposely kind of like campy and trashy because it's the 80s. And I honestly don't get that sense at all. Like, I just think it's bad.
They also
Uh,
they also actually mock that their own this film in the film with the whole
yeah,
Return of
yeah,
the Jedi comment. Where they're
yeah. The
like,
third
yeah,
is always the
nobody,
worst.
the third one's also the worst, and I'm like, well,
Mhm.
way to shoot yourself in the foot. Um,
Yeah.
Oscar Isaac as Apocalypse, I think it's actually a miscast. I do really enjoy
Oh,
Oscar Isaac
absolutely,
as an actor. I think he's
absolutely.
a great
Hmm.
actor. Especially,
Yeah.
like, I think one of the good things about Moon Knight was his
Hmm.
performance. I Because he
Hmm.
was really unique in it. But
Hmm.
I'm like, this is not Apocalypse. Like, actually,
Hmm.
even the silly rumors I saw of even the possibly The Rock being cast as Apocalypse in the X Men, I was like, that feels more like it than
Yeah.
5'8", 7" Oscar
It's not even.
Isaac.
I honestly look. I think the prosthetics work is pretty good, but I just don't know why they didn't mocap it. Why didn't you just make this a mocap character? You can have someone who's like 7, 8 feet tall.
Yeah,
This was
it's just
before Infinity War, guys. You could have had your big purpley blue villain
exactly.
before the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think visually, yes, I agree.
Hmm.
It's not great, and the film looks cheap to me. It looks
It
cheap,
does. It does.
which is so bizarre. Look, Bryan Singer, like he's he's not a good guy. I just don't understand directorial where it went wrong because he's the guy who did X-Men 1, 2, and Days of Future Past, and then it just went. it just went all over the place for this one. I also don't like visual effects wise as well. It's also a downgrade from the previous. I think all three of the films he's done,
Yeah.
especially the periods he was working in. Um, and also, it just to me the costumes look cheap. I don't like what I like about these X Men films for the most part. I guess Days of Future Past kind of has that, the fate of the entire world is on the fringes here. But I don't like the oh my god, Super Armageddon, like huge spectacle shit for this one. This one just doesn't feel right with me at all. I'm
No,
also
I'm
not a
right.
big fan of the new Cyclops, Jean Grey. Um, I I didn't like them. I don't
I
like the
I
younger
I
casting of it.
I don't think
Mhm.
they had much to work with.
No, no.
It's it's nothing bad on the actors. I mean, I think Sophie Turner's okay. As
Mhm.
an actor. It's just you do Game of Thrones and you're just kind of the same character, but just a
Yeah,
slightly
it's
different
not.
thing.
That's what I mean. They weren't giving much, and it's a shame. I get because this is also a weird thing to me because like the continuity didn't see when you made X Men First Class. That was kind of a reboot because that timeline didn't make sense with the X Men Origins of Wolverine prequel stuff, which was connected to the original thing. And also, you've kind of changed history as well with your last film. So that was a perfect opportunity to maybe not use these same X Men. Like
Yeah,
having Jubilee there. Okay,
but
let's see what
just
Jubilee's
nothing.
up to. Bring Quicksilver in, great. But I don't know. I just this film
I
felt like just a forgettable,
I enjoyed
trashy.
the Quicksilver sequence
uh
because I just think they're
Yeah.
fun. And I
hmm
love the fact that he spent more time on set than actually a lot
hmm
of people because of how much
mm
work and time and
Yeah.
effort goes into making those scenes.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I barely remember any of this film.
hmm
I remember being because the apocalypse end credit scenes in Days of Future Past where he's like
Yeah.
there and there's the horseman off the distance. I was like, holy shit, this is.
mm
I was like to my mate. I had to
The
explain to my
horseman.
pal who Apocalypse was, and I was like,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
big. Um, and then I'm watching
hmm
it and I'm like, all right.
hmm
Also
hmm
the what was the other film we were talking about years ago? Because I remember this is the thing. Like, yeah, they explained how he went bald.
hmm
And then was there a film earlier in the year? I was like, when me and you were joking, they're like, they could explain how they went bald. There was, I can't remember.
I can't remember. I can't remember what it
I'm gonna
was.
have to
I think
relook
went
through the
bald.
films. Ah, no, it was just a film. I was like, if they like visual, if they
Are you
like,
talking about Furiosa? Like
yeah, it was
how
a
was that?
Furiosa. Yeah,
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 I was
yeah,
like they
yeah,
did have
yeah.
to explain the origins of how she shaved their head.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was like in
Right.
that film, I was like, well, it was justified. This was like
Yeah.
transferring that apocalypse head, and I was like, it's like, oh, that
Yeah.
felt to me as like, right, we need him to be
Yeah.
bald. Let's just make
Mhm.
him
Yeah.
bald. Um,
Yeah, but I also think the major issue here as well is that because you are reintroducing us to these new Cyclops, Jean Grey, the entire X-Men team, and you have
yeah.
the threat and basically the Thanos of the X-Men, really. Like this huge threat. He is a villain you reserve for your like finale, and you're reintroducing like this feels like
The
the
thing is,
beginning again,
like,
you
it's
know?
the thing that we
Mhm.
loved with Thanos was that we knew he was
Mhm.
coming. He was built up
Yeah.
over so much, over 6 years.
Mhm.
You know, you
Mhm.
had a glimpse of him in Avengers. You had a wee talking
Mhm.
point in Guardians
Guardians,
1,
yeah.
you know, you had a wee cameo at the end of
Mhm.
Guardians 2, or like he was going to say he's
Yeah.
coming, or Age of Ultron. This is just like, you had one cameo, like, oh, are they building? And you just throw them in, and
Yeah.
you're like, okay, this isn't great.
And
This
it's just
isn't
a
good.
crappy one movie. Oh, look at all this floaty,
hmm
explosiony bullshit. It's just
If you
it doesn't
want,
look
if you
great
want a
either.
good
Not good.
apocalypse story, I
Mhm.
would wait until season 2 of
Yeah.
X Men '97 because I think that's going to be a
Yeah,
really
yeah,
good
yeah. I think that's gonna happen.
apocalypse season.
Yeah, this is to me. This is just like the worst. Not just like the forgettable modern day comic book adaptation where it's just the structure's familiar. The
Yeah.
big bad super explosions, throw everything at them. It just sucks. I'm going detour this one. Detour, absolutely.
I think that's generous, and I will
Mm.
go with you there. I think it's below X Men Last Stand. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Is
Okay.
it? Is it?
I
Oh
don't
no,
know.
I'll put it above it purely. No, I'll put it above X Men Last
X
Stand, purely for the Quicksilver scenes because I think those are just fun.
X3 also makes me angrier. So
Yeah. So we'll put it
Apocalypse just
above
trash.
X3.
That makes me angry.
Um,
Right.
Talking about
Okay. Well, we let's not spend too long on this one.
F.
What are
It's
we doing
F.
here? What is this? What
Um,
is this garbage?
I've seen this film once. I I
Mm,
don't remember much of it. I genuinely don't. I've
mm.
seen this film once, and I refuse to rewatch it. We've got the Phoenix Saga again. We have
Yes.
Charles,
The X-Men go to
Eric,
space. That's one of them.
Eric being pulled out of having a nice family life again, or it's just the amount of times that
Oh
Eric
my god.
retires in these films, and
Now that you mention it, like I remember what they do in Apocalypse. I should have said in Apocalypse. Fassbender once again does a good job, but they do that whole thing where his new family die and stuff, and it's actually that's probably the biggest emotional point of the entire
yeah,
film. I have completely forgot what Magneto was doing in X-Men Dark Phoenix. Where is he? What's he doing?
really have to look at the
He's
synopsis because
having, having to get
I,
Google
I
up for this one
because
because I remember. I
I
remember
thought
that.
that was I thought that was I thought that storyline was in Phoenix.
No, no, that's
Um.
Apocalypse, and Apocalypse recruits them, and then they do that really distasteful thing where they go to Auschwitz and destroy the entire thing. That was
Oh yeah.
Apocalypse. That was that really. Oh god, that's talking about that is
Uh,
actually making me cringe. Oh my god, am I
oh,
going to move Apocalypse
he's
down?
Eric. Eric has Geonosia. Eric's running Geonosia in this
Oh,
film.
is he? Right,
Yeah.
okay. Well, what
Um.
I remember. Okay, I'll say this about the X-Men Dark Phoenix, which I did like, is that because the X-Men are now kind of working
I'm
with the
gonna read more of
government
the
and are seen
synopsis
as
of this film.
heroes. Oh my god, you
I don't remember this film.
those. I liked that. I liked how. Remember that when Charles sees them as celebrities and he's sort of loving the spotlight. I
Yeah.
liked the ego sort of coming into Charles. That was an interesting plot point. I also think uh, Magneto and the train sequence at the end. I like that. I think that was well done. But
Oh, there's a
overall, do you
train.
remember Jessica Chastain in this film? Because
The alien.
I don't. The alien, like, because they couldn't use scrolls because Captain Marvel's out at the same time or whatever, and they wanted to use
Yeah,
scrolls
Captain
and they
Marvel
couldn't.
had the scrolls.
It's like,
I
oh, it was just. And once again, the Dark Phoenix saga completely rushed and
oh,
underdone
can
in this
we
film.
discuss
Mhm.
the Mystique's downgrades for the last three films? Because this is where it really
Yeah,
hits me. Is that Jennifer Lawrence just hates being in the costume,
yeah,
and she just looks
yeah,
so. This, I mean, the Mystique, the makeup in this film is just fan film levels of just
yeah. It's bad. Like
rubbish.
watching like X-Men 1 in comparison to this, you're like, oh my god,
It's
what the hell? Also to
garbage.
do with the way it's shot and lit as well makes it look worse because
Mhm.
they actually had mood and good
And
lighting in the old X-Men
it,
films.
it
But this
it
was
doesn't. Yeah,
this
as we
was
say,
terrible, absolutely
these
terrible.
films really struggle with continuity
Hmm.
because End of Future
Hmm.
Past is meant to be the new timeline. It's meant to be after all the prequel films, but then at the end
Yeah,
of this, Jean dies. Oh, hello, Norton. Um, Jean dies, and
yeah,
um, it's now renamed as the Jean Grey School for Youngsters, and Charles resigns, and Hank
yes,
takes over, and I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense because in Days of
yeah.
Future Past we showed that.
Yeah, Wolverine wakes up and he's in the Xavier school, and
Oh,
Xavier's there,
and
and Jean
Xavier's
Grey's
doing
there.
the thing,
Yeah,
and I was like, oh,
yeah,
brilliant, brilliant, and you ruined Phoenix
yeah,
again. You rushed Phoenix again.
yeah.
Phoenix should be a built-up
We ruined it again.
trilogy, and
Yeah,
it's
but that's
it
the
is
problem because they
garbage. I'm
had
sorry.
this. Is also my more beef with X Men 3 because they had that build up ready for X Men 3, and then they fucked it there, so they felt they need to redo
Yeah,
it again, and they fucked it again, and it's just utterly forgettable. I actually really don't have much to say about this film as much
no,
as I do
I
about
think it's an
Apocalypse and The
easy
Last
F.
Stand. I agree. It's just abysmal.
It is
It's just
so
abysmal.
for the thing is, I would occasionally watch The
Oh,
Last Stand for funny,
mm.
just watching a bad film. Like
Ugh,
occasionally,
I don't know. I
I
don't
don't
know
think
if
I would
I.
ever. I don't think I'll ever rewatch Dark Phoenix
No,
ever.
I will never rewatch it ever again. And speaking of films I will never ever rewatch again now, X-Men Origins Wolverine 2009, the beginning of what they plan to do with these origin films with all these X-Men. Oh my
When was
god.
the last time you seen this film?
I think it would have maybe been about 8 years ago. I
Really?
watched this before Logan. I watched it. I would have been 7 years ago. I remember watching the two uh, Wolverine films.
Mhm. And I've lost Lewis.
It's just
Oh, there is.
it's horrible. It's so horrible. And for me, and this always even I actually even watching it in the cinema when I was like 11 years old
Yeah.
and watching it, it feels like just it's a complete incoherent mess of a film. It's just stuff happening, the movie, and it's
Yep.
just going place to place, just stuff happening until it just ends, and it sucks. It's so
Yeah. I
bad.
mean,
Mm.
I it is obviously it's a
You rewatched this year?
I rewatched this year because I wanted my girlfriend to appreciate Logan of where we went
No,
from. Um,
no.
and her first thing was like, "Is that meant to be Deadpool?" And I was like, "Yes, that's meant to be Deadpool."
Yeah. Oh
You know,
my
how do
god.
you mess up
The Deadpool thing.
a character?
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
no, I mean this film is genuinely very much a victim of the 2008 writer strike, as you clearly see,
Yes, it
because
was. It was. Yeah.
if you think the writer strike didn't mean anything, watch this film, and then you're like, yes, it did.
Yeah.
I, you know,
Hmm.
we have a really, I think the best part of that film is the opening sequence, which I think is really cool, going
Yeah,
through the wars.
I think that's the only compliment people can give the film
Um,
is that,
this
and that's all
film,
I ever hear when anyone talks about this film is they give that opening credits the compliment, and then they move on.
and then they move on. I
No,
it's,
yeah,
the whole gang of X Force or whoever it's meant to be,
mhm,
genuinely terrible.
yeah,
Every aspect of this, the love story as well, is
mhm.
just terrible. Um,
Yeah.
what they did to Ryan Reynolds is terrible. I mean,
Do you remember?
poor
And we
man.
have the whole absolutely nonsense plot twist at the end where his wife is alive,
And she was the one like,
and they faked her
yeah,
death.
I don't get that. And
What the
then
fuck are you guys doing?
Scott Summers is in this again with Emma
Mhm.
Frost again. Um,
Oh my god,
which
yeah,
doesn't make
yeah.
sense for the next first
Doesn't make
class film
sense.
because
Doesn't make sense.
nobody's talking in these films.
Yeah.
This
Also,
year
do you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
What sorry, were you saying?
I was thinking about it, it's like Cyclops was in that cage and Wolverine like frees all the mutants,
Yeah.
and you're not thinking like the first X-Men film. Scott would have been like, I know, you were the guy who saved all of us that time 20 years
You
ago.
you
I think I
saved
would
me.
remember someone like that. Like I would
Yeah.
remember someone with fucking metal claws unleashing
I
all these cages. I
You
think
know
that's something
what?
that'll stick out in my mind. Hmm.
The Fox X-Men films makes me really happy that we have somebody like James Gunn holding over a superhero franchise because I know he's gonna avoid
Yeah,
having messes like this happen. But no, I mean
absolutely.
everything to the last fight is just garbage. It is utter
Yeah,
garbage. I think everybody knows this film is garbage, and that's why a lot of people
yeah.
want to um remake. I mean, even Hugh Jackman himself has said one of the half the reasons that he came back to do Wolverine,
Mhm,
Deadpool and Wolverine is because he's like he's not happy
mhm.
about how the last time Deadpool and Wolverine interacted on screen.
Oh, really?
You
That
know,
thing?
like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he
Mhm.
felt bad, and
I
yeah,
also just think from a even just a concept standpoint, we already kind of got this stuff with X2.
too,
Like
yeah,
we know where he got his metal claws from. We know who did it to him, and we know what happens to Stryker. I'm just like, it's not really that much more interesting than that. Like,
no,
unless you did the whole, unless you went further back, like I'm saying with
yeah,
him and Sabretooth in like World War II and stuff.
hmm
Like, apart from that, there's nothing really interesting to go from there, and the film clearly has no idea what it's doing because it just meanders and goes on. The action sucks.
Will I
Everything about it
Am's
is
in
just
this.
it's so boring. Yeah, well, I am's in it. The visual
Gambit's in
effects
this.
suck. It's just I hated
You
it.
know, I
I
don't
hate it.
get
F
it.
tier, F tier, F tier. The worst X-Men film.
Is it below Dark Phoenix?
Yeah, below for me.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
that's
I can't
ambitious.
stand
That's
it.
ambitious.
I can't stand it.
Right, the
um,
Wolverine, the
yeah,
probably
the Wolverine.
the weirdest of the X Men films because nobody really
You think?
everybody either forgets about this film or
Mhm.
has never seen this film.
Yeah. Okay. Well, fair enough. I have fun with the Wolverine. I
I do,
get its
yeah.
flaws. I get its flaws. I like them. Once I like them. I like Wolverine in Japan. I just think that is just
Yep. I just think
that's a really
I
cool
want to
idea.
double check because I definitely no keep
Uh-huh.
talking. 'Cause I want to know when this came out and then when another film came out because I have
2013. This
to
was 2013. So this was a year before Days of Future Past.
twenty
I remember that.
thirteen.
I
Right. Yeah, I
I'm
do have
with
an
this
issue.
film for the most part. Look,
Mm-hmm.
I do like that we actually, you know what? For all its flaws, I'm glad we're dealing with the ramifications of X-Men 3 and the Jean Grey
Yep.
stuff. I'm glad that is involved with this plot. You know, having a Wolverine at the low of his lows, he's gone away from the X-Men. Okay,
Yep.
well, the very end of X-Men: The Last Stand doesn't really add up with that, but fuck it, whatever.
No, obviously.
Continuity, who cares about it in this stuff anymore? Um, and then that thing of the I guess what turns out to be the Silver Samurai
Yep.
basically saying to Wolverine, you know, do you not feel like your time's up? You've lived for a very, very long time. You're
I
depressed. There's
that's
not
a
really
that is a
anything
very
left for
deep
you to do.
kind of
Uh-huh.
comment. I'm just looking up something here because I
Uh-huh.
remember watching it and I was like the Silver Surfer. I was like, what does that remind me of? And it's Teenage
Mhm.
Mutant Ninja Turtles, which came out the year later. Michael Bay, and it's the
Right.
Shredder, and it's just the exact same.
Oh,
It's just
right.
it's like a weird
Yeah.
exoskeleton samurai suit
Yeah,
that's just
yeah,
completely
yeah.
chrome
Well,
and silver. But
yeah,
no, I,
look,
I, I really love the moral aspects. You know,
I agree. I think that is good. And that Wolverine being like, no, you honestly don't want this, man. I'm telling you right now, I'm suffering. You don't want this. Look, the plot itself is a bit convoluted of a man having to fake his death to lure Wolverine to his
yeah.
lair to then
Hmm.
extract his bone marrow. Yeah, I really think this film would have benefited from a simpler plot
Yeah.
of Wolverine in Japan. But I like him fighting the Yakuza. I like the bullet train
Yeah.
sequence. I
It's good
I
fun. It's
even
fun.
like him in rural Japan, just cutting away, like trying to, having his moments of peace. Yeah, it's decent. I enjoy it. Maybe this film also would have benefited from an R rating of like proper violence. I
Maybe
mean, this
like
film
the
does
next one.
push its rating, I think, but yeah, I would have. I like. I think this film has more potential, but I'm okay with what we got.
Yeah.
That's kind of my stance on it. What do you think? Yeah.
No, I'm the exact same. I think I actually probably watched this
Mhm.
film properly for the first time this year, and I was pleasantly
Yeah.
surprised. I thought it was going to be a lot worse than I
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
saw. Yeah, like I
Mhm.
said, I do think the plot's a wee bit like okay, fake his death to bring him over to then take his part, and it's all like
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
final
It's
fight
a
was a
bit
bit
silly.
anticlimactic because I'm like,
Yeah. Mhm.
I get it. It's just like, we can't just have a guy in a samurai suit. That's boring. I'm like,
But why
no, you
not?
have
The
a really
samurai fight
cool.
is the best fight
Yeah,
in
and
the
like
in
you
the
have
film when
a
he.
what you have to do is have something called choreography.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you know, during
Yeah.
part two, the ending of that was just two guys with tiny little daggers fighting, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
probably one of the best
Well.
one-on-one
mm,
fights.
Yeah, I honestly don't get it from a concept how they thought that would be more entertaining because the best fight in the film is him, fighting
Mhm.
the one samurai guy once he's
Yeah,
just been like resurrected from getting that thing off his heart. Um, yeah, I guess maybe they thought we can't do that again. But I'm like,
no,
why not? We get John Wick films and The Raid and
it's
whatever
just the
else where
same.
it's just constant fist fights and it's great.
I'm upset that
So
the
I would have enjoyed that
character,
more.
his pal, who I forgot what her name is in it.
The red-haired one.
Yeah, I'm upset that she didn't
Mhm,
actually come back for anything else because I was like, I really enjoyed you as a
mhm.
wee sidekick to Wolverine. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
the the deleted scene with the costume always
yeah.
makes me a
Mhm.
bit
Yeah.
upset because I was like, that's up until the time that was the first time we
Yeah,
got a
yeah, yeah,
lovely
yeah,
little
yeah.
look at that thing. Hopefully next week that's
Why I don't know
gonna.
why they didn't put that in the finished film.
I don't
Because
know
why
because
not?
obviously it doesn't make sense
It's a
because
minute.
they weren't gonna do it for
Mhm.
the next film anyway. Um,
Yeah, I know, but we don't. There is no next. Do you know what I mean? The next
yeah,
one was
there's
Days
no
of Future
next films
Past,
in
and it's like,
this.
yeah, there's no next Wolverine solo outing until after Days of Future Past. But
But yeah, I mean,
yeah, were
where are
you
they gonna
feeling
put
this one on the
this?
tier list? I'm.
I I don't know.
This is tough actually. I'm a.
I think
Hmm,
we're struggling with the
I'm
two. Are
a.
we struggling between a B or an A?
Yeah, I'm gonna go high B in this one. I
High B. We'll
think.
put it
Yeah.
above the original X Men.
The original X-Men. I
Yeah.
actually think this film is better than a bit better than people give it credit for. Um, right, here are the creme de la creme, in my opinion, of all
Where are we
things
gonna put
X-Men.
this?
Uh, well, I think we know where we're going to put it. I mean, I think this is just
We'll
it's
just
the
move it up
best.
there. We'll just mimic there
Right,
for
you
the
just put it.
moment.
Are you putting an S tier?
I'm just gonna straight put an S tier just for the point.
Look, it's just it's great. Rewatching it again, I was like, yep, I love this. This is fantastic. A real human story of this completely broken man.
Yep.
Um, the inclusion of having Charles in the position he's in,
Oh,
fantastic. I love that stuff with Charles dealing with whatever dementia brain issue he has, and
the
then that
world just
they
being
never really
crap.
really say it. But yeah, the world is dour. It's just a really shitty America we're in, and yeah, like that whole thing with Charles is Charles killed the X-Men because he
Yeah.
had some sort of seizure. I was like, yeah, that's just great thinking. Wolverine. I mean, yeah, I mean, from going in, you knew Wolverine was going to die in this thing. You know it's going to be this whole
Yeah.
kind of tragic
Stephen
tale.
Merchant in this is actually just surprisingly good.
Great as Caliban. Really liked it. It's gnarly. It's nasty. It's violent. It's sort of
X-23.
like yeah, dystopian western, like
Mhm.
really cool.
I,
Love
right.
it.
So I want to
Mhm.
know your feelings on on X-24.
It's sweet. Oh, the
His clone,
copycat
his
Wolverine.
like proper clone.
Look, there is. I think I get it. It's the whole like Wolverine sort of hating himself and hating everything
Yeah.
he's done, and then seeing the prime animal version of himself, and he has to sort of take that version down and dealing with like the ghosts of his past, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, I I get it. Wolverine's interesting, right? Because he's a man who you can only do so much with, like in terms of, like try to create engaging action. So him clawing people, or the best way to do it is fighting guys with swords and another
Yeah.
guy with claws or whatever. So I get as like having an antagonist and someone to fight. I get it. For me, when it
Mhm.
comes to the problems of it, I kind of think with the third act um, the whole child mutant stuff in this film. I get it's the kind of X-Men universe, but that stuff comes off a bit goofy to me.
Yeah. I mean,
With the kids with the
obviously,
powers and stuff.
we've got our
Um,
favorite actor in the world in this, Richard E. Grant.
Richard E. Grant,
Who
who
we
once
just
again
love,
is like
by the way.
he's only not in it for much.
No.
And also what's his name? Oh my god, I forgot the actor's name.
You.
The guy with the robot arm, me.
You.
What's his name? Is it Dan Holbrook? That's his name.
Yeah.
Him is also kind of like he doesn't really do anything
Oh.
in terms of like being an antagonist. For me, he just kind of like he has like a robot arm, and maybe he was you could have had his arm made of like adamantium or something like that,
Yeah.
or something to give a bit more physical presence because he doesn't really do anything. Like he's
Yeah.
just kind of there, and it's like well, they could have killed him in the first encounter in
Yeah,
the
I mean
like the
that is the thing.
rusty
He's
train
not he's
yard.
knocked to the ground, and
Uh
you're just
huh.
like, just take him out. You're like, because Wolverine has no
Yeah.
issues killing people in this film, and I'm like,
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
just why
Exactly.
leave the one antagonist
Uh.
that really is just alive?
Yeah.
But no, I mean
And I do like
everything
the
in this
whole.
film, and it's just I mean the trailer with Hurt, um,
Yeah, that's a iconic trailer now. Yeah.
beautiful,
Yeah. Hmm.
beautiful trailer. I know a lot of people who don't
Yeah.
like this film, because they
Really
don't think it's an
interesting.
they don't think it's an X-Men film, and I won't name and shame live. I'll name and shame afterwards. Um,
Okay. Right.
but
Right.
yeah, people were like, "This doesn't really feel like a superhero film." I'm like, "Yeah, well, it's not. It's a
It's not.
western. It's like
Yeah.
it's for me. I'm like
It's a.
it's the Batman. It's not a superhero
Yeah.
film. It's a western with superhero elements. It's an
Yeah.
older
It's a sad, horrible world, and look at the life of these once great heroes, and look what they're reduced to now in their dying
yeah,
age.
and
And also, I like the whole like of mice and men pipe dream of like like it's genuine
the
like of
boat.
mice and men, where you
Yeah,
have
getting that
Lenny and be
ranch.
like, oh, we're gonna have the farm, we're gonna have the ranch, we're gonna have the ranch, we're gonna have the Sunseeker, and it's like, no, that's never gonna happen.
No, he could
And
have just he could have
I
just
really
gone for it.
like the dourness of it, and Daphne Keane as X-23 is fantastic.
Brilliant.
Um,
Really.
great physicality to it as well.
Did you
Like
like her
with
in the
all the
Acolyte?
choreography and killing those
She was
guys.
in the Acolyte.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was good in the Acolyte, and once in
Yeah.
that, she was also has like great choreography. And she knows what she's doing.
I thought you were
Her
saying,
lightsaber
yeah, in
fight is
that she has
fantastic.
her Wolverine claws. So it
Yeah,
just
she has a Wolverine claws
I
in that
thought you were
too.
gonna say it just transfers over to the Star
No,
Wars universe.
uh-huh.
Um,
But I
I
think,
love
look,
the
from just a,
optimism
uh,
that Charles has with her because he's like, it's the future
yeah,
of us, And it's such a nice
Mhm.
contrast to how he was like clearly feeling earlier, where he's a bit so dour and so confused. But when he has this
Yeah.
purpose, he's like focused. His mind's there.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
the banter between him and Logan is great in this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
It's
great.
beautiful, and
Mhm.
it's such a harsh, blunt film where people just die, and
Mhm.
it's like the wee farm
Yeah.
family are just dead.
Yeah. They're
Um,
brutally murdered.
and it also
Brutally murdered. Yeah.
it's the
Mhm.
ambiguity that this film leads, where it's like we don't know
Mhm.
if there's a good future for these mutant
No.
children. We don't know. They're just
Mhm.
wandering off into the wilderness of Canada, and everybody
Yeah.
else is dead, and
Yeah.
Wolverine finally can rest, and
Yeah. It's a good
it's a
uh-huh.
beautiful ending for that character. But the issue is
Yeah.
with everything in this universe that I don't know if that's the same Wolverine, because the way he's looking at the comics, like
And
half this thing never happened. I'm like, well, it's clearly not the Wolverine that did
yeah.
Days of Future Past, because that's mental,
No.
that kind of crap, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
This feels like a Wolverine that was like the first couple of X-Men
Mhm.
films, and then nothing really else happened.
Yeah, it's sort of like I mean, who God knows how many timelines they have now at this point with the
See,
Fox
this is where
chronology
I'm
and all
not as
this, but
upset with everybody
yeah,
saying like he's coming back, because I'm like, mate, this
mhm.
is not the Wolverine that we've known from like
No,
Days of Future
no,
Past and stuff.
no,
This is
mhm.
this is what I hate about the Fox X-Men universe, is that it's
Yeah,
not. If we knew this was that Wolverine that went through every
yeah,
single film, I would be like,
yeah,
yes. I just know this is a
mhm,
Wolverine, and it's a great
mhm.
performance.
Yeah.
And yeah, it
But
is
we
an S
know he's
tier.
been on all various adventures and stuff with the X-Men. It might be like we don't know how this world was before, and there
No,
obviously was
it
an
could.
X-Men because they mentioned the X-Men. So it's
Mhm.
like, well, we for me, I always saw it as although yeah, I mean maybe things might not, but this to me kind of is the same Wolverine who's been through the Days of Future Past. You know, the X-Men
Weirdly
trilogy,
for me,
Days of
it's not. That's
Future
like my kind of
Past,
headspace
Wolverine.
with it.
Because he wakes up at year 20 whatever, and then it could be like however God knows how many years later that this has all
I
gone
know
down,
it's just him
and all the
kind of like
X-Men are dead. So yeah,
yeah,
it doesn't really matter though. You can interpret it that way you want. You can interpret it a
yeah.
different way, but it's as just a standalone story. It's the best
It's great
X-Men
fun.
film,
Yeah.
and it's still
Right.
it was nominated for an Oscar for its screenplay. I always forget that, but yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's rush through
I just want to.
these the last ones,
Can I
right?
just rush through? I'm just gonna just put New Mutants F. It is. I'm putting it below. I'm putting it below Origins Wolverine, because it genuinely is the worst piece of crap I've ever seen in my life. Um, it it is obviously about kids
Right.
that are
Mhm,
mental issues. I've seen this film once, and it was honestly forgettable. Every part of this film
mhm.
is just really predictable, also, and it's just rubbish,
Yeah,
because it went through so many
yeah.
different reshoots. I'm pretty certain,
Oh,
or
I thought it was never gonna come out.
it was honestly it was the amount of times that
Mhm,
they've studios have like put films on tax
mhm.
release and stuff like that. Why didn't they do it for this
Yeah.
one? I'm just looking through it to see.
Yeah.
So it came out in 2020. Obviously, it stars a bunch of people from who got known from other things like Maisie Williams, Anya Taylor-Joy, Charles
Yeah.
Heaton. Um, it was made for like nothing. It was like 80 million. It was a really kind of like small film, and it made no money. But obviously, that was due to it being COVID.
COVID at the time and all that. Yeah.
Which is like, but this really killed everything on
Yeah.
this thing. I'm just looking through. If there's
This is
anything.
the
There was
last of the Fox era,
yeah.
the X-Men stuff, isn't it? Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was
Mhm.
filmed in 2017,
Wow. Took years to
and it
make.
was meant to come out in 2018. It was meant to come out in 2019. Then it was meant to come out in
Yeah.
2020, and then that 2020 date got pushed, pushed, and pushed. So I think there was like two
Yeah, because
sets
of
of
COVID, yeah.
reshoots, and yeah, it's utterly garbage. I don't even want to talk about it. So we can move on to Deadpool.
Okay. Deadpool, yeah. Okay, look. Deadpool, look, I
If
know
we
I was
no,
saying this earlier, but the yeah.
we have to appreciate Deadpool in the
No,
sense, yeah.
I know. But for me, Deadpool is not a character I find like super funny. Um, I the Ryan
Mhm.
Reynolds thing, like I don't know, Ryan Reynolds to me has also not been like a super, one of the funniest guys ever. I can understand the appeal, and I can understand the appeal of Deadpool, this meta character who can reference everything in pop culture ever, like Aladdin's genie. I get it, but for me, Deadpool is just I don't think it's. I don't. The first Deadpool film, I don't think is bad. I don't think it's a bad
Mm.
film. I actually, it's still amazing that project got made. I
That's
still
what I'm
think that's
saying. Like
great.
I
Uh-huh.
think that's the
Mhm.
what I really love about the first Deadpool is
Mhm.
that the ambition that kind of Ryan Reynolds
Mhm.
has as a
Yeah.
businessman, not just an actor, to
Mhm.
get projects off the ground, where
Uh-huh.
he very obviously leaked that footage. Um,
Mhm.
the test footage that went onto the internet about like, only about a year or two, like a year and a half before this film actually
Yeah.
came out. I say quickly
Yeah.
they got this thing off the ground. But yeah, I know what you
Mhm.
mean. I kind of like the Deadpool character. I always found him
Mhm.
funny in the
Mhm.
cartoons when I was younger.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
I think I can't see anybody else than Ryan Reynolds doing
Mhm.
this because watching Ryan Reynolds in so much other stuff, even like
Mhm.
his earlier performances in like the crappy like 2000 comedy films he does, Just Friends. I will
Oh man,
watch
Just
that.
Friends is so bad.
Yeah, but
It's so bad.
I
Yeah.
watched that
Yeah.
and I'm like, this is no, like from an early stage, I was like, nah, he could be Deadpool. It's not him turning into Deadpool. It is
Mm.
them just going right. You are this character.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
know,
that's why
but that's what.
I'm not as
Yeah.
affected as it by you. I understand. I
Mhm.
completely understand. Like it is
Mhm.
a lot. Um,
Mhm.
it is a lot, and it is, it's not how I think the best reference I'm going to do is not like Big Bang Theory levels of like
Oh god.
him. You know what I'm talking about. There's that
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
scene
Yeah.
in the Big Bang Theory where he lists off
Mhm.
about 18 different references and it's meant to be a
Yeah.
joke and everybody just laughs. And it's like
Yeah.
it's not funny. I don't think he's that
Yeah.
level, but
No.
it's it's a bit more than the Spider-Man quick
Yeah.
wittiness of it.
Look, no, I think these issues come more in the sequel, but the first Deadpool film to me is not bad. The action's decent enough,
Mm.
and it
For
was
the
sort
budget
of
they
a
do.
novelty.
Hmm.
Yeah, for the budget, and it was a novelty to see a character like this just referencing and sort of make poking fun of his own universe. I guess if
Yeah.
he's even in the X-Men universe, who knows where he is? Um, I mean, it's okay for me. Deadpool's okay. Uh, I don't know where you want to put that on the tier
No,
list.
no,
For me, I don't know. It's okay.
I
Hmm.
would go for a B. I think it's the lower of the
Okay.
B. I think it's a six. I think it's good. I think it's fun. Um,
Yeah.
I think rewatching it, you're like kind of wanting to get through the origin story stuff because you don't really care that much
Hmm.
about it. It feels like it's
Hmm.
better once he's actually Deadpool. I find the inclusion
Hmm.
of the proper Colossus really funny because I think I love
Yeah.
this morally upright guy who's just like no,
Hmm.
in a full on Russian accent,
Yeah.
you can't do this, and then
Hmm.
plotting the funds of like rotating back to the X Mansion. It's like, oh, McAvoy or Stewart, these timelines are so confusing.
Yeah.
And I'm
Confusing.
like those kind of digs. I'm like, yes, because that's how I feel. Like this is how I feel in this show. I don't
I
know.
like the
Are
taxi
you?
driver in these films.
Yeah, yeah. Are you
That's
gonna go with
yeah.
a C? Are you gonna give it a C?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm just like I'm never. Even when I saw it for the first time, I remember seeing cinema, and I was like, I don't know. For me, it was like I didn't understand why because I was the kind of the perfect age for
Yeah, we
Deadpool to
were. No,
be
it was like
funny for.
2016. I was
At
like
the, I
18.
was
You're
like
like young
17
and
at the
stupid.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I don't
I
know.
don't know what it was, and
This is I think
I
the
love
issue that you're
stupid
gonna
shit.
face with
Yeah,
Deadpool and
with the
Wolverine, where
that's what
I
I'm worried
think
about
you need
Deadpool
to just
Wolverine.
I think X Men and Wolverine. I know we're
Yeah,
diverging, but I think Deadpool and Wolverine. Sorry, is going to be
yeah.
your No Way Home. That
Oh
everybody
my god.
loves it for that.
Don't
And I mean, mate,
yeah.
we came out of
Yeah.
No Way Home and going, that was brilliant. And then afterwards, you
Yeah.
went,
And then I watched it again a week later, and I was like, "Oh my god, there's so many problems with this film."
mate,
Yeah.
I walked out of Rise of Skywalker and went, that was brilliant. Because
Yeah,
I was
well,
in the
I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" When we saw that, I was like, That was terrible."
yeah, and then I
And you were
rewatched
like,
it.
"Nah, it's great." I was like, "No, no, no." That's what I was like. We were talking about Star Wars in the last episode, how I don't put it
Yeah.
on a pedestal, and I was like,
Uh,
"Yeah, that wasn't good." Yeah,
I was like, and then
yeah.
I rewatched it. I went, oh wait, no, it's
Mm.
not.
No, no, it's
And
not. But
I'm,
that's the well, look,
yeah,
but that's the thing with Deadpool. I don't love the Deadpool character, and I love stupid, shitty like comedies like
yeah,
Step Brothers and The Other Guys, and maybe I only like two comedies in the world, But I just mean I like like Super Bad, and I like The
yeah.
Bottoms, and I do love
Oh
like
no, no, no.
these really
Bottoms is
gross
another
out
level of
and
comedies.
ridiculous comedies. But
I
Deadpool
don't
for
know.
me, I just
It,
isn't it.
I get what you mean, and I do
Hmm.
think, especially with Deadpool and Wolverine, I've been saying this for
Mhm.
ages. This is what we people thought was going to be Multiverse of Madness, and you have to
Right.
just accept that going
I
in.
know it's gonna be that.
And
I know it's
I
gonna be that.
think,
We'll
I
we'll
think
we'll
for
review it when
me,
the time comes.
yeah, and I think with me, this has
Mhm,
always been my issue when,
mhm,
especially when I score films, where
mhm,
I I look at my list of films and I'm like, some films are below other films, and I feel they shouldn't be, like, in comparison, because I'm
mhm,
like, some films are technically made so much better than other films, but then my
mhm,
enjoyment of the actual film
mhm.
push it. See,
Yeah.
like, for we talked about Maxine, I wasn't very happy with
Mhm.
Maxine, but I look about
Right.
films that are put above it, and I'm like,
Mhm,
filmmaking
mm,
wise, these aren't better than
yeah.
Maxine, but I
Well, Maxine has problems though with its
no, no,
script
no.
and
I
its
mean, we could tell.
as a
I mean,
as a
I know how to fix Maxine, but that's my other thing. That's another.
right, okay.
I
No, okay.
genuinely know how to fix that ending. But anyway,
Oh,
but that's the
wow.
thing. Like, where
Right,
I,
let's finish this
yeah.
off.
So I
Deadpool
think
2 is C tier
Deadpool one.
for
Where are we
me.
putting Deadpool
For
one
me.
first?
Oh, do you not put it in B tier?
We're gonna put
I
it in
put it
B
in B
tier,
tier.
right? I
I put it in B
Deadpool two,
tier.
yeah,
And I
C
put
tier.
Deadpool in C tier. I yeah, you know, yeah, and Domino's cool, and I do find the scene where the X Force land
Jump out of
that's
that. Yep.
funny. That is a funny sequence.
Brad Pitt
But
just
for
showing up for a
me,
brief second.
yeah, that was good. Domino's cool enough. But it was just yeah, for me it was just more the
Mhm.
same. I kind of forgettable. I really hated the kid character in it.
The kid character
Didn't
was really annoying.
really grate it. And that's a shame because he's
Cable, I
great in
thought
Hunt
was
for Wilder
funny.
People. But
Cable, I was
yeah,
like, you know,
Josh Brolin's
good,
Cable's cool, but
good
yeah,
fun.
for me it was
Um,
whatever. Mhm.
I I really like the when I first saw this, and I'm like, you killed Vanessa, what the hell? Like, obviously
Mhm.
when that time travel aspect's not introduced,
Yeah,
you're like
yeah,
you are like in that initial 2 minutes, you're like, what? What you've
yeah.
done this? Like, this is
You
actually
killed her
kind
off.
of
Yeah,
like
yeah.
hard hitting.
And
And then
I mean, the post credit stuff is also fun when he goes back in time and kills Ryan Reynolds.
yeah, when he's
Like,
reading the
yeah,
Green Lantern
that's
sketch,
ridiculous meta-ness to the. I
and
love how
and then
stupid that
he
is.
kills
Uh-huh.
himself, and then he kills all Deadpool with
He
Wolverine
kills
standing
Deadpool.
there, and he's
Yeah,
like, "Don't worry,
yeah.
we'll get us done." And then there's a deleted post credit scene that if you want to watch,
Mhm,
go and just type that
mhm.
in. Which I was
Oh
honestly
yes, yes.
impressed.
The
I'm impressed they
yeah.
made it rather than
Mhm.
did even it
Yeah,
got
yeah,
cut. Like,
yeah.
I don't understand how that got through any level of hierarchy to be shot. Yeah, you are right. It is lackluster, and I mean the
Mhm,
Juggernaut fight at the end. It is like, yep, okay, cool, big Juggernaut
mhm.
sequence, and
Yeah,
a
and you
wee
have
bit of
that
a
guy who's like this screaming, like, was it the orphanage master guy just screaming and just being like, "What is that? What's going
yeah.
on?"
It's it's
Mhm.
yeah. I have hope for
Yeah.
this next one because
Look.
I have
Uh-huh.
hope that is. I also have to admit that I can't remember who directed this one. The second
Mhm.
Deadpool film, because
Doesn't did David Leitch not do these Deadpool films, or am I making that up?
did he do both of them?
The guy who did Bullet Train and The Fall Guy.
Yeah, I know.
I
I mean,
feel
we have our differences with the Fall Guy, but
we
um,
do our differences with The Fall Guy.
no, Tim Miller did the first one. David Lynch,
Tim
I'm pretty
Miller
sure,
did
did
the
the
first.
second one.
That's also do yeah
Yeah.
yeah. So that's fine.
And
Um.
obviously Sean Levi's doing the third one. Now, I've seen the
Yeah.
Adam Project, and I think that's a charming
Mhm,
little film. It's not the
mhm,
best thing in the world, but I
mhm.
just think Ryan Reynolds and Sean Levy do comedy
Sean
quite well
I know
because
Sean Levy did the Free Guy, and Free Guy is pretty
I
meh to me.
I thought Free Guy was fine.
Yeah,
I thought
but
Free
for
Guy
me,
was fine. You
it's
have a
not that
vendetta
good.
against Ryan Reynolds and
I'm
comedy. You
not a Ryan
clearly
Reynolds super
do.
fan,
Yeah.
okay? I'm just
Okay.
yeah.
That's fine. But I mean, I'm
Mhm.
just excited for. I want to see the craziness because I.
I look, I'm gonna go into Deadpool Wolverine like I do with every other film and
No,
not
you're
expect
not.
anything.
No, that's
I
fine.
go into okay, this is a good method for everybody. Even if you've got a bias for it or a bias against it, go into a film and always, as the title comes up or when the rating comes up, this film starts at a 5 out of 10, and it's going to go one or two ways, or it's going to stay there the entire time,
It was
right?
except for Halloween Ends. That film started off a solid
That
one,
starts
and
at
then
five out
just
of ten,
yeah,
and then actually creeped up because that was a good opening sequence, and then
yeah,
immediately went down
it
as soon
went
as that
down.
opening sequence came to an end.
I
That's how I watch
love that.
things,
I
and
love that film.
I really just want because I'm already bitter that Hugh Jackman's back. because of how well Logan ended. And I was already upset when Patrick
Um,
Stewart came back in the Multiverse of Madness because I
by
was
the
like, your
way,
story ended.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm telling you now, San
Mhm.
Diego Comic Con's happening in a week, just after Deadpool
Right.
Wolverine. They're doing a
Mhm.
Hall H. They're doing a full thing. They're going to announce the Russell Bros are back. They're going to change the name of the Avengers 5. Those two are going to walk out and announce that they are in that film. 100%.
What? Patrick Stewart as
Reynolds.
well.
No,
Or
Reynolds. No,
Reynolds
no,
and
just
Wolverine.
Reynolds and Hugh.
Mhm. Look, but that's the thing, and I just want it to be. Well, you can't. I don't think the film will have as a poignant story as Logan. Of course, it won't. Um, and it does kind of still annoy me a little that they are back. Patrick Stewart came out years ago now, but yeah, I know. You can call me like a little
Yeah,
bitch or whatever, but it's
you
just
can cry. You
the
can
way it
cry if you
feels for me.
want. Don't worry.
It
You
feels a
can
bit
just cry
wrong,
it.
but
You can cry
that's
it.
just me. Anyway, that
Anyway.
is our tier list. Make of it what you will.
Yep.
Agree or disagree. There it all is. Logan in S tier, X2, X-Men Days of Future Past, X-Men First Class in A tier, The Wolverine, X-Men 1 and Deadpool in B, Deadpool 2 in C, X-Men Apocalypse and X-Men 3 in D, X-Men Dark Phoenix, The New Mutants, and X-Men Origins Wolverine in F.
F.
There you
Yep.
go. But yes, this will wrap up today's show. We will be back with a Twisters spoiler episode
As
in the
well
coming
as
days.
Deadpool. Yeah.
We
Because
can sort something out. Deadpool
timelines
Wolverine will be
our timelines are confusing because we've just recorded
yeah
2 episodes one day, so I don't know
yeah
when everything's happening.
that's true. The Deadpool and Wolverine review will be out on Friday as well for the big opening day because we are seeing it on Thursday, aren't we, Kyle? Am I right?
Yes, we
Am I
are.
right in that?
Yep, we are.
We're seeing it Thursday. Great. Okay, right. So we'll have that all with you next week. But look, we just gave our opinions on all those X-Men films plus the Deadpool movies. But at the end of the day, those were our unwanted opinions. Thank you very much.